Hello, and welcome to another episode of Coach John Runs His Cake Hole. I'm your friendly neighborhood youth coach, Coach John, and as always, thanks for tuning in. Dropping the podcast a couple days late this week. I took a vacation with my youngest. We went to Six Flags in Bowie, Maryland, and I checked off a bucket list. I'm a history nerd, huge history nerd. Finally got to see Ford's Theater. If you don't know what Ford's Theater is, it is the place where President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated back in 1865. And I've wanted to go there since I was a young kid, and we finally made the trip. So I was elated and excited. On a youth sports note, my 5 to 7-year-old team finished up their season. We didn't get everybody to find the bottom of the basket, but we got 12 out of 14 to do so. So I am extremely happy with those results, and we'll be coming back in the winter to pick up another team. I had my first volleyball practice with my daughter's rec team. Having never coached volleyball, I realize I have a lot to learn beyond the basics, but I'm excited to learn it and apply some of the coaching principles of transformational coaching to youth volleyball and see what we can do with it. I'm always looking for a challenge, and this should be one of them. Coaching a group of teenage girls, I've done it before, but it's been a long time. So I look forward to growing as a coach and helping them grow as volleyball players. It's time for a few shameless plugs. Sorry I don't have a lead for it this time, but let's go ahead and get them shameless plugs out of the way. If you have not found and liked or followed us on Facebook or Instagram, please consider doing so. You can find us on Facebook at The Sports Reclamation Project and on Instagram at _Sports Reclamation Project. We have our website at www.sportsreclamationproject.com. And if you would like to support and represent the Sports Reclamation Project through the purchase of merchandise, feel free to visit our shop at www.sportsreclamationproject.com. Click on the shop link. Last but certainly not least is TrueVictory.com. Founded by U.S. military veterans and first responders, True Victory is a sportwear and streetwear brand dedicated to building everyday champions on and off the field. Use promo code RECLAMATION for 15% off your purchase. Now, without further ado, let's get down to what we're here to talk about today. It's one of youth sports' biggest problems. And as we progress through the podcast, I'm going to occasionally stop and address some of the problems involving youth sports. And one of them that I'm going to get on today is parents who are a little bit too involved, over-involved sports parents. Now, as a coach, allow me to say first, I love and respect all sports parents. Without them, we would not exist. They're the ones who fund the sports. In many cases, they're the transportation to and from practice. And a great relationship with your players' parents actually helps performance. However, at the same time, as a coach, I don't care how much you spent on private lessons. I don't care that you used to play. I don't care that you watch the sport a lot. When it's practice time and game time, I need to have your athletes' full and undivided attention. Every coach does. And they cannot do that with you hovering behind the bench, lurking behind the dugout or on deck circle, coaching from the bleachers, standing behind the backstop, or doing any other annoying and overstepping sports parent behavior. How do you know if you're overstepping? Allow me to share my personal ways that I see parents overstep all the time that can and will, for lack of better expression, piss your athlete's coach off, up to and including benching or dismissal from the program. Not that harsh, but let me tell you something. Some of these coaches do not play. They don't want you involved. They don't want you around. They want you to drive your kid, drop them off, and the time they have them in practice or games, they want you to be a spectator. You don't like it, learn to love it. Some coaches are like that. I'm not as intense, but I do have standards, and these are mine. The first one is interfering with practice. Now, most high school programs do have closed practices, and some travel programs are going that way too. And for a time when I gave private coaching and shooting lessons, I began to veer that way too. One of the biggest reasons for that for me was parents use practice time to interfere on behalf of their athletes, yelling instructions or quote unquote coaching them up during water breaks, talking to them when they've subbed out of a drill, or just being an overall nuisance. I have had parents take it upon themselves to try and step on the court while I'm coaching to offer advice or suggestions to their athlete. They quickly realize that's not a good idea, but I've had parents that comfortable. It's essentially just an overall distraction and nuisance. Practice is when a coach or coaching staff plans to fine-tune the team concept, game plan, approach, and that's very difficult when parents are attempting to hijack a practice for their athlete. Not only that, but multiply that by multiple parents, and now you begin to understand why A, it's not allowed, and B, practices are being closed off. Not only that, it's disrespectful to the coach. You wouldn't go into your child's math class and interfere with them while they're being taught algebra. Why are you going to do it to their coach? Another way they overstep is offering unsolicited advice to their athletes' coaches. Funny thing about unsolicited advice is every time I've gotten it, it has never been team advice. It has always been advice to get their child more involved. I appreciate the dedication, but that's not a good look when you're coming to a coach. For example, I run a variant of the motion offense, and I teach a deny defense mainly. We run into other formations as well, but those are my bread and butter. Most coaches have a base offense and defense they run that they enhance or modify as they grow or upgrade or adjust. However, they usually stay the same. However, regardless of the success a coach has had, has, or is having, occasionally you'll get a parent who will approach them telling them or suggesting, I've had parents outright tell me how that can make a change. And like I said, it always benefits their athlete. It's never a team change. It always benefits their athlete, which is one of the reasons I put out my player meeting. I'm willing to talk to you about a few things, but other athletes and my strategies are not up for discussion. While unsolicited advice is par for the course as a coach, because everybody has the armchair quarterback and critic, the problem arises when a parent takes offense, when the coach does not take their suggestion. This usually leads to public criticism and various other problematic behaviors such as hurt feelings or a divide. Another thing I am adamant parents got to stop doing is harassing officials and umpires. Now, I'm aware coaches are bad for this one too. And as someone who does officiate, I'll let you in on a little secret. Coaches know this and they tend to ignore it. But some officials and umpires are as petty as everybody else. And if you're constantly harassing them from the bleachers, your athlete's coach can lose the benefit of the doubt when it comes time for an honest plea. And that falls on deaf ears. Plus, in a lot of leagues, coaches are now responsible for the conduct of their bench. And I have issued and seen bench technicals issued in basketball for fan conduct. You don't want to be that fan. Lay off the officials and umpires. Focus on your athlete. Another one, interfering with the flow of the game. This often happens in baseball, I've seen. But your athlete does not need you following throughout the game. They do not need you talking to them between innings behind the dugout. They don't need you in their ear on the on-deck circle. They don't need you coming behind them if you're on the bleachers behind the bench, coming down and talking to them about something. They don't need you watching them warm up the pitch. And they definitely do not need you standing at the backstop while they pitch or bat. Pitching is a very nerve-wracking experience. I thank God I never was a pitcher. But I couldn't imagine staring down a batter in the background seeing my mom or dad watching me. That's a distraction. That's a hindrance. You're not helping your athlete. You're actually hurting them because now they've got to deal with the external pressures that are not needed. As a coach, I want to tell my parents, allow your athletes to have these moments to themselves. You won't be there for every high-pressure situation in their life. So maybe try and start giving them a little independence now. Lastly, and I say this all the time, overcoaching me or coaching from the bleachers. I guarantee if we took a straw poll, this would be one of the biggest pet peeves of coaches. The funny thing about coaching from the bleachers, they only want to coach their athlete. Very seldom is the advice geared to the team, and if I did a shot of whiskey for every time a parent yelled shoot as soon as their athlete touched the basketball, I would often need an ambulance by the second quarter. I've had parents recently who I've heard tell their athletes do not listen to their coach on certain things. Then they're usually surprised when their athlete is very soon removed from the game. You don't like to do it, but there's some non-negotiables as a coach, and that once you have a parent going against you in the bleachers, it has to be addressed. But the reason this is the worst thing parents do is because your intentions are always selfish. Parents, as they should, want what's best for their kids. In sports, in life, in academics, I get it. I do too. Coaches, good coaches, want what's best for the team. When you do that as a parent, you're disregarding what the team and coaches have in mind, and you're usually doing it to boost your ego or your athlete's ego. Worst of all, you serve as a distraction and confuse your athlete about who to listen to, and that leads to mistakes. Anytime I speak on the event of coaching from the bleachers, I'm addressed or confronted. I've been confronted by parents after team meetings who think these behaviors are acceptable and they are helping. Most of them are well-meaning in their thought process, and it usually goes a few ways in their defense. One of them being, well, if they won't coach my athlete, I will. My response to them is, the coach during a practice in a game is focused on the team success, which is the exact place you and your athlete should be focused. Team success. A team is a bunch of people using their skills together for a common goal. Another excuse is, well, the coach doesn't know what he's doing. Now, the generic response is, then why don't you volunteer to coach? Rec ball, that's always a blanket excuse, but I'm willing to bet you if your child is a junior varsity or varsity athlete, their coach is more than likely well-credentialed to coach. They don't just hire people off the streets. Those coaches have a history, they have a background, they have experience. You might not like it, but they have it. Another one I hear is, my athlete doesn't mind me talking to them at the dugout or on the bench. Okay, fine. Maybe they don't. Some athletes have a great relationship like that with their parents. However, you're setting yourself up for a power struggle down the line when your athlete cannot take correction from others without running to you. Let them take correction. Sports are supposed to teach life skills. Let them take correction. I love youth parents. I love sports parents. Without them, there are no sports. They are the bank, they are the taxi, they are the support system. However, one of the biggest lessons in youth sports, beyond fitness, beyond love of play and game, are some life skills, such as taking correction, working with other people, and sacrificing personal gain for team success. These things are often difficult to grasp when mom and dad are helicoptering around the court, pitch, or field. We got to start giving our kids rope. We got to start giving them space to operate. And youth sports is an ideal place to teach decision making. That is one of the main reasons I do not like parents yelling instructions from the bleachers, is because sports can teach decision making and standing by your decision. And that's about enough of that. We're getting closer to that 1,000 person goal on my Facebook page, so please continue to like and share the page. If you have feedback from me or want to come on the podcast, I'm still looking for guests. I have a few lined up, and once school gets back in and I'm settled there in a couple weeks, I'm going to start bringing guests on to talk about various topics, including a great author who wrote a great book that I'll let him talk about in a few weeks on the page. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at the Sports Reclamation Project on Facebook, _Sports Reclamation Project on Instagram, or John at sportsreclamationproject.com is where you can email me. Until then, I hate to say that's it, that's all, but I hope you've had a ball. If you're heading to your child's sporting events this evening, remember, be kind to the referees, thank the coaches, tell your kids you love watching them play. This is John with the Sports Reclamation Project, and we will talk again later.